We have a great topic to discuss today. It's all about employee retention and discovering the future of the employee experience. Hopefully today you'll get some insights on how to improve employee engagement within your organizations, how to manage talent, talk about coaching as well, retention, of course, and any training opportunities within your company. This session is being recorded and it's going to be put out as a video after today. Now, the only people who will be seen on screen are our speakers and indeed ourselves from the LOETB. We'll invite you to put through any questions that you have using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen as well. After each speaker, we'll have a few minutes there to throw some questions towards them. We'll invite them all back on at the end in any case to take any questions that might arise. If we discover there's questions coming in around maybe kind of central or specific teams, we might just compile them and put them to the panelists as a kind of an overall question at the end. So we're really happy to take your engagement, looking for your engagement as well, because it's such a key topic, and we've got two fantastic people to speak who have experience in this sector, in this area as well. Gary Kelly from Grant Engineering in Burr is head of HR. He's also Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, amongst many, many other things. We're also joined by Jennifer Emerson, too, Director of People and Culture at Midlands Park Hotel in Portlaoise. And if you're familiar with that hotel, you'll know that their people, their culture, and how they go about retaining employees is absolutely crucial, and it really is the cornerstone of their success as well. Our keynote speaker today, though, is Mary Carroll. Mary is an executive coach and an EQI leadership trainer. She has expertise in psychometric profiling and organizational development. She's also a digital transformation and specialist. She's 10 years online sales and digital marketing experience. Her bio is a lot more extensive than that, but Jennifer is going to talk to you through and look at the emotional intelligence side of things and the kind of psychology behind employee retention. Very, very pertinent today as any day. You'd notice that despite the challenges that are out there at present for businesses, or perceived to be out there, we're at the highest rate of employment in quite a while in this country. Percentages of unemployed is extremely low, an all-time record as well. And a lot of that is due to the great organizations that are out there, the opportunities. But again, the reason and the need to retain those employees is absolutely crucial. To begin, though, we're going to go to Gary Kelly. As you can see, Gary is sitting in Grant Engineering in Burr, a huge success story for the Midlands as well. I'm not even going to attempt to guess how many employees they have at this stage, but Gary, that'd be a good starting point. Gary, you're very welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks, Ronan. And thanks, Jolene, and everybody who's attending. I might just share a quick presentation with you, just a little bit about the company and what we do, just to give everybody a better idea. So I'm going to try and take permission there, Ronan.
That's perfect, Gary. Yeah.
So hopefully you're seeing us. So yeah. So look, we're Grant Engineering, Ireland. We have subsidiaries around the world, but our headquarters is here in Burr. We manufacture home heating products. Traditionally, we made oil boilers, but I suppose you can't but be aware at the moment that things are very much changing in that industry. So we make a varied range of home heating products, which is ever changing, which is, I suppose, leads us to great challenges in terms of recruiting staff. And then if you're having difficulties in recruiting staff, the retention becomes an even more important piece. We have just over 300 employees based here on our site in Crinkle, which is just outside Burr. We're quite proud that this is the original home of Grant Engineering, and we've expanded, I suppose, across Europe and worldwide in recent years. But all of our manufacturing is still done here on our original home site here in Burr. So we're quite proud of that, and the vast majority of our staff live within 15 minutes of the site. So we're quite a big employer. And then we have sales and distribution worldwide. So it's a bit about us. So a little bit about what we do each day. So we have 10,000 meters of factory space. And every time I make a presentation, I have to change that because it's ever expanding. So we're growing all the time. And as I said, the new range of products that are coming through are leading us to expansion as well. We process approximately 40 tons of steel. We We manufacture in-house about 500 or 5,000 individual parts each day, and we do about 5 kilometers of welding, which I know probably seems like an extraordinary amount if you think of how far 5K is from where you're sitting or standing. But we weld about that distance every day across 24 hours. So as you can imagine, in order to support all of that operation, we need a lot of people. We need to put a lot of time and investment into training and upskilling, and then retention becomes very important. So when we speak about retention, what do we do here at Grant in terms of retention? So the number one is respect for each other. And respect comes in a number of fashions, but it starts with the jobs that we give people. So when we all go to work, we want to feel like we're doing something worthwhile. We want to feel like we're making a difference to the business and maybe to the community and so on. So that's the first step. We give people the respect of having a worthwhile job. There has got to be proper, fair compensation for that. And we kind of have a rule here ourselves in terms of we pay at market rate at least, and we don't pay anybody below what is market rate. And then benefits. So benefits have become more important, and we all know that from our own roles, or if we've been moving roles. Benefits become an awful lot more important. And over the past number of years, we've introduced a pension scheme for all of our employees ahead of, I know there's going to be mandatory pension schemes coming to government initiatives, but we're already there. We've introduced healthcare and healthcare allowances for all of our staff. And we find that both of those actually are very important on top of compensation. And sometimes they're even more important because they're basic needs that are met for somebody, and they don't need to worry about them. They don't need to worry about them in their pay package. They don't need to worry about what providers. They know that their future is taken care of, and their current, their healthcare is taken care of, and they're two very basic needs that are met for people. Career development is a big thing. So of the roughly 300 staff that we have, 48 of us work in what we call support roles, so like my own and that. 12 of that 48, so for 25%, have started with the business in general operative roles. So they've come in, some with experience, some with maybe with third level qualifications unrelated to what they've ended up doing. Some have come straight from school without ever having worked anywhere else. This is their first job. So the first thing we do when we're looking to recruit for a support role is we see, do we have the talent in-house? And when we talk about having the talent in-house, I suppose we don't look at necessarily the CV, but we say, do we have people with the attitude to progress and to grow into roles? And we can give them the training after. That's less important for us than the attitude. So that's the first thing we do. And what we find is that those people become long-term, if not lifetime employees of the business, because they see the possibilities that are there for progression. And again, of that 25%, a lot move on to a higher level from the initial role they take on our support team. So the career development doesn't stop when they move into the office environment. It continues for them. Further education support. So as we were speaking earlier, Ronan was saying, like, so many of us here over the past 3 to 4 years in particular have taken on third level studies. We've got a very good relationship with AIT or TUS at Loan, but we've had people attending Dublin University, University of Ulster. So that's become a very important part of what we do. It helps develop our staff, but also because our business is changing so much, it's very important that we keep upskilling and that we keep having the talent in-house. And also, as our business changes, what we see is that some roles that we would have traditionally have had here, and I'm sure every business can relate to this, roles are becoming redundant. You know, they're no longer applicable to the current market trends. But we don't want to lose those people because they've built knowledge over 10, 15, 20 years. So we're looking at further education so that they can contribute in a different area of the business, because so much of what they do is so valuable to the business. We have a couple of other things going on. Then we have a very active social club, and we have a very active well-being committee. So those are some things that are happening outside, and that it's about much more than the work. And we have a list of priorities here, and I tell everybody when they come for interview, our list of priorities are: number 1 is family, number 2 is hobbies and interests, and number 3 is work. And we, you know, when we come to work, it's very important. But if you get those list of priorities confused, very often you don't make it long term with Grant Engineering, because if you start treating work as more important than family or your hobbies, your lifestyle, you burn out very quickly. And actually, you don't fit in with the culture we have, because the culture we have here is that family is number 1, that our hobbies and interests are number 2, and that work is number 3. And sometimes number 2 and 3 are interchangeable, but if you ever replace number 1 with number 3, then it's you're in a bit of trouble. So we try and instill that culture in our people, and the people that stay with us long term, they do. That's very much how they view it as well. And I was trying to think of what I was going to call some other things we do, but I suppose next generation support. So a couple of initiatives that we have a lot of summer workers who join us, some who are still in second level studies or just finishing second level, and some then that are going through their third level studies. And what we do is, those are primarily children of our employees, and they're coming in and they're working with us for the summer, and they take a full and active part in our business, whether it be as part of our manufacturing team or our warehousing logistics team, or part of our office support team for the summer. And they come in and they play a full part in that. And it's a great help to them in terms of giving them experience in the workplace, but also, as we all know, in terms of funding what is the ever increasing costs of third level studies. So that's a great support. And we also have a bursary scheme. And again, that is exclusively open to children of employees. So that's something that we award to a couple of students every year. One of the things that we find, I suppose, that it's great for employee retention, because it gets employees involved in the business, is our idea system. And I've spoken at some other things about it, but we tap into the resource that is our employees. It promotes increased involvement. It brings out issues that we didn't know we had. So while we talk about things at a high level, maybe at management level, very often we don't know that the small day-to-day things that are happening on the ground, the problems that are affecting people in doing their job. So we give them the power to go and solve those problems, because, as I always said, the true experts, they're the employees in the 10-meter radius of their workstation. So they're the people who are working at the coal face every day. So we give them the power to go and work on these ideas and to actually solve the problems for themselves. And we support them then as a management team. We support that. So we give them, whether it be time or whether it be the financial resources to solve those problems. And what actually it leads to us is we get a lot of issues sorted. So we complete about 80 to 100 ideas per month. We've completed over 8,000 since 2013. Some of those are 5 and 10 minute quick fixes. Some of those turn into massive projects, which can be 100, 200,000 euro projects. They might run for 6 months, 12 months. So they can turn into big things. But I suppose the general idea is that every employee plays their part. So that's really what that's about. And we have, flick by it, we have award schemes then for exceptional ideas. So that's just a little flavor of what we do. And I know some are going to touch on maybe the psychological side of the retention as well in a little while. So that'll kind of feed into some of what I've told you. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we're doing. Thanks, Ronan.
Gary, thanks a million. I just have a quick question there for you.
Yeah.
You touched on it, that kind of almost hidden talent pool that exists in many companies. Do you think it's something that's overlooked in companies? I know grants obviously have really capitalized and they're able to make use of it, but do you think do companies in general maybe completely overlook the talent pool that's already existing within the company?
In short, yes, Ronan. Yeah, I do. And look, I need to be honest about it. Like, it's something that we were also guilty of. You know, that's the reality. This is not something we've been doing for 40 years. It's something we've been doing for the past probably 4 or 5 years. So it's easily overlooked, because the first, and I've been guilty of it myself, you know, my time with Grant and maybe in some other industries. Very often we get too hung up on the CV, the qualifications, and looking for this perfect match for a job description that we have. But very often we're doing it in reverse, and maybe we should get the person and then make the job fit around them. And that's something we've started to do. And I know we have, you know, you have some basic requirements in a role, but we've started to look for the person first. And what we always say to them is that these are the core responsibilities of your role, but actually it's up to you after where you want this to go and what you want it to be. And we will support you in that. So if you're coming to us in 6 months' time and you're saying, well, look, this needs to expand in this direction, or actually I'm doing this, and this, and it's not really benefiting the business, we need to change, then you drive on with that. And that's why, I suppose that's why we changed, because we just said, look, we're not doing this the right way. And I suppose you have to be, like anything, pride very often. If you're doing the wrong thing, you're kind of saying, well, no, we can't admit we're doing the wrong thing, so let's just stay doing it and hope nobody notices. So we had to sit down as a management team and say, you know what, maybe we're not doing the right thing. And we've changed because of that. Now, you can't be insular either, and you can't just say the only talent available to us is already in-house and let's develop that, because very often new voices add so much to the business. And some of the new voices we've had here over the past 2 and 3 years have added so much to our business and completely transformed some of our departments. So it is a mix. But yes, I think too many of us are guilty of ignoring the talent we have in-house.
Yeah, it really sounds like culture is the key thing there, and you can hear a lot of the influence that lean has on you too. And I'm sure the ideas system, even that is probably a great way of unearthing that talent as well. That's a topic too that I know both Dara Cruz and Jennifer Emerson from the Midlands Park would speak to. They have some fantastic examples as well of, particularly even in the chef's department, of, you know, of training staff and giving them those opportunities. So thanks a million, Gary. I'm going to invite Dara and Jennifer to talk to us very shortly. Just before that, Jolene Hall from the LOETB is just going to give an overview of some of the supports and services that the LOETB offer, including that lean training program, and give you a very quick introduction to the brand new Enterprise Hub. Over to you, Jolene.
Perfect. Thanks a million, everybody. Ronan. Yeah, look, I just want to welcome everybody onto the webinar today. It's I suppose we're delighted to be able to start the webinar series again, and hopefully this will be one of many. So keep I suppose an eye on our LinkedIn page, Facebook, and social media platforms for further updates on the webinars that we have planned over the coming months. So yeah, so look, we're delighted, I suppose, to host our first webinar from the Enterprise Hub in Tullamore. So over the past, I suppose, 6 years, we've seen an enormous growth in the whole area of training and skills to advance. So initially, I suppose, when I started out, we were training something like 350 people a year. This year, that'll increase to over 2,500. So due to the demand of training for employers and employees in the region, we actually developed this new centre. It's based in Access Business Park. We have, you can see behind Ronan there, 115 seat lecture hall. Yeah, very good, Ronan.
It's not a virtual background.
We also have a conference room, and we have 2 training rooms upstairs as well. So all our training now is carried out in this space, and it's a fantastic facility to have in Tullamore. What I will say is the space is available if anybody needs a meeting room, or if they have a conference coming up, to just, drop us an email that the space is available, and we will be able to, take bookings and that. I suppose Gary is just talking there about career development and that, and I suppose we play a huge part there. Under skills, I suppose there's just two areas that we work with. So initially with employers and employees to upskill them and reskill them, to give them opportunities to advance in their career, or to, I suppose, avail of new job opportunities. And I suppose Dara and Jennifer will talk about some of the work that we've been doing with the Midlands Park Hotel. So as Gary said, it's as people looking at people, I suppose, who have come in maybe into operational roles and given them the opportunity to advance their career. And the second area is working with employers to develop programs in areas, I suppose, where there's identified skills gaps. So across, I suppose, a number of different sectors, to develop a talent pool or a pipeline of employees. So to backfill maybe those spaces where you have people that have progressed on in the organisation. So look, we're just delighted to welcome everyone here today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we hope you find it informative. And look, if anyone has any questions, or, as I say, want to avail of any rooms or anything like that, or have any queries around training, and they want to speak to a member of the team, please feel free to drop it into the chat function, or we'll drop our email there as well, and you can get in contact with us. Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks, Jolene. Thank you a million for that. And again, just worth getting in touch as well. I mean, I only discovered today that this actual lecture theatre was here. So again, all brand new, all they're ready to be used as well. Definitely not a virtual background. I'd like to welcome our next speakers, Jennifer Emerson and Dara Cruz from the Midlands Park Hotel. Jennifer is Director of People and Culture there. Dara is General Manager. And it's well publicised over the past number of years, and even recently that it expects there's about 100,000 vacancies in the hospitality sector at any one time. So clearly anybody who is delivering a service to the quality and standard that the likes of the Midlands Park is, must be doing something very right. So Dara and Jennifer, you're very welcome. And I suppose I'm going to start off with that simple question. Let us know how many staff members you have on your books at present. Whoever wants to come in first.
Hi, Ronan. I think Dara will take that. I have an issue turning on my camera for some reason, so
no problem.
I don't know if that's a deliberate. Could be a deliberate.
I'd say what it is.
Now.
Jolene might just have to give you the access to do that there as a host. There you are now. We have.
I'm on there. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic.
Ronan, how are you? And thank you very much for giving myself and Jennifer the opportunity just to talk about the Midlands and our story. To answer your question, we've currently got 224 positions between full and part-time employment here in the hotel. That's gone up from 2019, where we had 167 employees roughly at the same time. So no different than the industry we're in. We're enjoying significant growth. Obviously, we've had a challenging 2 years with various lockdowns and whatnot, and well publicised the impact on our industry. And I'm sure some of the people on the call today will have similar stories, but our industry has responded very well. And you alluded to the vacancies that are presently in the industry. And if I reflect on the Midlands Park story, I think one of the reasons that we have been able to achieve what we've been able to do over the last, say, 9-10 months is due to the success story that is our employee engagement, the work that Jennifer has put into it, and we'll share some of those stories in a few moments. But I really think that we have a full complement of colleagues that are able to fulfill the demand. And anecdotally, as I understand it, again, well publicised with the likes of Dublin Airport, the tourism sector is radically underserviced, and the customer experience has been compromised over the last couple of months. And I am proud to say here in the hotel that I think we've been able to do a fantastic job. We've been able to retain all our key leaders. We've been able to promote and grow our people internally, and we have been able to facilitate the significant demand that has come our way. Each of the segments of our business is performing well, whether it be our transient leisure, our conference and events, and our wedding business, or indeed the local restaurants and bars on the weekends. It's very busy, and we have been able to keep all those services going. Unlike some of our colleagues in the industry who have had to curtail the levels of business that they have been taking in due to shortages of staff. And I think there's some geographical reasons in our location that help us. We don't have huge competition for staffing, such as a Killarney or a Galway may have, and it's rife with organisations trying to lure colleagues from different businesses to their own. We're in a fortunate position in the Midlands that we don't have that, but equally I think the work that we have done has complemented that, and that's one of the success stories. And Jennifer just has a little presentation that will take you through and hopefully give you some insight into the work that has gone on in the background, and has allowed us pick up the recent awards for our employment, and also the accolade of being a great place to work in 2022.
Fantastic. Looking forward to this. Jennifer, we'll pass over to you.
I know you're going to have to bear with me because I feel very insubstantial with you in the headphones and Gary as well. So you'll have to forgive me. If you could, I think, make me host, and then I can share, I think, if that's possible.
I think Jolene or Caroline will just do that for you there now.
Super.
Yep, that should be you now.
That's fantastic. Now I have to get this working, so you'll have to forgive me that I novice at this now.
No problem.
Seem to be having issues with sharing that. Apologies. I might get Dara. Are you any good at sharing that slide, Dara? Apologies if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just share screen function at the bottom and
just
pick the screen.
That.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's just not logging on.
Yeah. If you have them in front of you, if you want to start to even talk us through them, because really it's the experience piece we're looking for.
So basically, I suppose if we want to talk about the hotel, Dara gave you a little bit of an overview, and he's going to mention about how it actually started from the ground up in 2017.
So the story of the property was built originally by the Canes and it opened 18 years ago now at this stage. The property transferred ownership to Colm and Anthony Level in 2017 and went a huge transformation. I think the capital investment was in the tune of 9 million euros that was invested in the property. And I arrived on site and it was very clear that the organisation had great facilities and just needed to work on its employee culture and the direction the business was going in. One of the most important aspects of what we did here is we elected our purpose, a set of values and a direction for the organisation.
We have it here, Dara, finally. Apologies on that.
That's okay. Yeah, so we jump on the next page.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, please. So we worked with our team here to create the purpose, and it was a very simple purpose, but it was creating incredible experiences for our guests. And we ask all our colleagues to be aligned to that through a set of behaviours. So each and every day we remind our teams and engage them in this process. It's a very simple outlook, but it really resonates through all our behaviours. We talk about, and Ronan mentioned earlier, in terms of an employee culture, we have 4 critical values that we work towards each and every day in terms of our behaviours. And they are discussed in our induction program, in our retraining, and in our comms with all our teams. We just jump to the next slide there.
Yeah, and just to tip in there, it's really important that you understand that the purpose is echoed everywhere through the business. So it's something that we really resonate with, and it's something that each person comes through, and they understand that we're all working towards the same goal. So sometimes I think the purpose of an organization can be overlooked, but it's something that's really important, and we forget about it quite a bit.
And our 4 key values are care, and that's caring for each other, and caring for the guests is at the heart of everything we do. And that really is something that came from the spirit of the owners and how they really, really want to ensure that our customers, as they come through the door, have a wonderful experience. And that is also echoed by the leadership team and how we take care of our teams. We've invested significantly this year in emotional intelligence training, and Jennifer will touch on that in a few moments. And it really is the soft skills and developing those soft skills in our industry. Our industry wouldn't have a great reputation for that style of leadership, and it's something that we've embraced and adopted over the last 18 months. Always getting better. It comes back to some philosophies that we've developed around lean and Kaizen, and always challenging ourselves. How do we get better? How do we innovate? How do we improve the business each and every day? it's very well documented. If you stand still, your competitors will move ahead of you. So it's core to our values of how we can get better in each aspect of our functions, whether it's the customer experience, whether it's the employee experience, whether it's the financial element, or even driving sales. So it's a value that is very dear to all of us. The next value that we talk a lot about is doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. And that comes down to the integrity and building trust with one another and building trust as a brand. And that's something that everyone appreciates and everyone understands the value of it. And trust is a commodity that really resonates and resonates with different relationships, in particular with our customers. The final element of our values is energy and drive. We don't wish to spend our time not engaged in the business. We wish to bring high energy to our roles. We ask our teams to arrive to work with a can-do mindset and an approach that no matter what the challenge comes at us, we've got the energy and drive to overcome it. They're the 4 key values of our organization, aligned to the purpose. And whilst they're very soft and really integral to our business, the next slide I wanted to share with you is how it translates into business performance. And here's some very simple stats. The industry, the hospitality industry, is growing at a phenomenal rate. And we here in the Midlands Park are no different. And whilst I think we're doing a relatively decent job, there's some stats that tell us that we're outperforming some of our key indicators and our competitors. So this year in July, we've had a 55% growth in website traffic to our website on 2021. And whilst 2021 had ups and downs with COVID, we're still seeing phenomenal growth. Our revenue generated to our own website is up 36% in the same period of time. And the total revenue through email marketing, so that's through our comms via emails, and again, it all goes down to the equity we've placed in the brand, is up 55%. The next slide, it gives an indication of how much we've grown relative to our comp set. So our occupancy year to date, so for every bedroom we have 116, we've sold 78% of them. Our comp set, so that's the set of hotels that we monitor and benchmark in terms of their performance, they're at 71%. So we're 7 percentage points ahead of the comp set in our region. And then the Midlands hotels through the Irish Hotel Federation, their occupancy 63%. So we've got a 15% improvement on performance on their occupancy. And I alluded to some of the anecdotal pieces of information that are in the industry at the moment about lack of staff to fulfill demand, lack of housekeeping teams and food and beverage staff. And we've been in a fortunate position in the Midlands that we've been able to trade throughout this year and last year and had a full complement of team to fulfill the demand. And I think all the work that we've done in terms of our employee engagement, in terms of developing an outstanding culture, I think these metrics support the business case. And I think that's very important that we as a team hold ourselves accountable, not just to deliver a fantastic experience for our colleagues, but we also make sure it's commercially viable. And I just wanted to share some of the stats that support that strategy.
And I suppose this is my bit to jump in here now, Ronan, and talk about the more softer behaviours. So to echo, I suppose, a little bit what Dara was talking about, you know, the values. Like we see values on the screen, and really they're just words until you put them into practice, until you put them into day-to-day behaviour. So we always say to people when they join the business in the induction and during the probationary period, our values should sing to you. You know, they should be intrinsic in your DNA. You know, if these values don't sing to you, it might not be the right business, and that's okay. You know, but life's too short. Find a business that the values are for you. You know, we find very much so that by having the values helps everybody and helps the business grow. It's the way we show up every day in work. You know, it's very easy when you're caring for the guests all the time, you know, looking after people. And, you know, it takes a special type of person. You know, healthcare, I believe, is very similar to hospitality because you're spending your day looking after everybody. But one of the ways that we can do that, one of the ways we can support our team is to help the learning and development. And Jolene and Melinda and the team in the LOETB have been phenomenal to us. You know, Jolene mentioned it there. you know, courses that we put on. We've had supervisory management. We've had upselling, cross-selling workshops. We've had lean management, white, yellow, green and black belts. We're running an MPH traineeship. You know, it's a 10-month program where team members whose school maybe wasn't for them and they didn't know the path that they can go on to, similar to Gary was talking about in grant engineering. You know, hospitality is that place for you. If you have something to give, if you have, you know, if you want to look after and care for people, this is the right organization for you. And it's giving people those stepping stones to the next step of their journey. So very much they come in and they do a minor award, a restaurant skills, a customer service, and a work experience course. They come out with a minor award, and you know, I know it's not a major award, but we got hats and gowns for them. You know, a lot of the people had said to me, you know, I'll never wear a hat and gown in my life. You know, this is really a really important moment for me. They brought their families and they got to share in that. So we spread it out through the community. But the goal is always that we grow our own. You know, over half our managers here have started from the ground up. I myself came in on a 6-month work placement. Had the joy of meeting Mr. Cruz, and then, you know, 3 years later, I've been very fortunate, you know, that I've recently been promoted to Director of People and Culture, and that's purely because the business wants to extract the best out of the people here, you know, and the goal is always to get the gold in the people and align it to the business, and then everyone will prosper. I suppose the recognition, we're all very focused on recognition, you know, and now more than ever conversations around salaries and things like that. But I'm very conscious that, you know, it's not always about the monetary. It's not always around the value that you're paying people for work. You know, we've all had pay rises, you know, it's fantastic, it's brilliant, but they are only short-lived. But it's that little, you know, simple thank you, but thank you for a reason, you know, for looking after that guest, for getting a high chair, for helping that woman with the buggy, you know, for looking after that team member when they were down. You know, those are the things that we find are really important at Midlands Park Hotel. And they are what they're what enforce our brand. They, you know, they support us. We have a recognition scheme here, which you'll see on the left-hand side. That was developed by one of the team members here. They brought that from a business that they'd worked in America. And similar to what Dara said and Gary echoed there about the ideas system, we encourage people to find solutions here. You know, it's our business, it's all our business. So they developed a recognition scheme. Every time you do something that lives to the values, you're rewarded. And anyone in the business can reward anyone. It's not just a management team. You know, birthdays, little things like that. We have a Facebook page, and you know, some people are on their own. They don't have anyone to say happy birthday to them. You know, this is everything. This business is everything to them. It's very important. I think guest feedback is phenomenally important. You know, why are we all doing our jobs? Like, why is everybody here? You know, the team absolutely love when they read those comments from customers and guests. It means the world to them. It makes them feel like they're actually what they're turning up to do every day has been valued. And, you know, we were phenomenal over COVID. We were aware that there were people who were very isolated and alone, and we didn't want to forget about them. And we wanted to acknowledge and recognize that they were still part of our business, and we just couldn't wait to welcome them back. Promotions and any kind of promotion between a team lead up to a manager, we celebrate as a business. And to echo you know, what I said earlier about the courses, every single one of our management here have participated in one of the courses by the LOETB, and it has helped them grow in their position, and it's something that they're immensely proud of. So the engagement piece, I'm very conscious when we talk about engagement, because a lot of people want to know, you know, what price is it? How much is the cost that you put on it? But at the end of the day, I often think that engagement is a space where, you know, you want to trust your business, you want to belong, you want to feel psychologically safe. You know, every single person in this organization, this is their business. You know, I know Colin and Anthony are our owners, but, you know, everyone in this business participates and drives this business forward. We have town hall meetings, which are really, really important, I believe. You know, Dara opens up the P&L and he discusses the financial side of the business. You know, a lot of businesses don't do that, and we found that over COVID that people took great comfort from that, because, you know, we weren't hiding anything, and having that openness and transparency is huge in a time of uncertainty. You know, we're facing into that again with energy costs. You know, we had a meeting today. We're very honest and open about that, but also we're seeking ideas from people about how we can better develop the business. You know, it's really important that, like I said earlier, that we celebrate each person in this business. And you know, we try to cultivate friendships. The goal is always that somebody has a friend in work. You will always have a friend. Life is hard enough. You know, and what Gary said earlier about a family, we very much refer to ourselves as a community. You know, it's something that we feel very, very strongly about. And it's something that we believe is spread throughout the wider community. As Dara mentioned, we have 226 employees at the moment in the business. There's a huge amount of family members here. You know, my own daughter works here in the bar. You know, we have mothers and sons, we've husbands and wives. You know, what greater attribute is it a business to trust your loved ones to come here? You know, I walk through the town, it's, you know, people say to you, oh, Midlands Park, oh, I'd love my daughter to get a job here. You know, I heard you do a traineeship. You know, that's what we're all about, looking after everybody in the business. So that's a little bit now, a whistle-stop tour, Ronan, if you have, of Midlands Park.
No, it's fabulous. It's an absolute credit to you as well, because it's so important to see what happens behind the scenes too, and to bring out that sense of community in that, because yes, it's a challenging industry, a challenging sector, but when you make a difference like that, it clearly is. And I think Dara has really opened up a nice little segue to the next segment because he mentioned emotional intelligence, and I know it's something that, you know, in a lot of sectors was a thing that was never heard of, and indeed if it was mentioned, it was probably scoffed at, but it plays a huge role in developing people and bringing people on board. And I'm just looking at LinkedIn here, actually, in a post by Jennifer there from a couple of days ago. People will never forget how you made them feel, and a quote by Maya Angelou. And of course, like that, those people, it's not just customers, it's also your staff. And there's a beautiful video there actually of the team recognizing a chef for 20 years of service as well. So we're checking out their socials there too and see what's actually happening. But to find out more about emotional intelligence and how it can be revolutionary in terms of employee sustainability, we're delighted to be joined by Mary Carroll. Mary's an executive coach and an EQI leadership trainer with a lot of expertise in psychometric profiling and organizational development. Mary, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Ronan. Ronan, I think I'm just going to have to wait for the guys to.
I'd say they can just give you the little rights there as well. So if you want to start off, you can there, and your camera will come on there in a couple of seconds anyway.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Well, look, thanks, Ronan, and I'm delighted to be here. So I'm not going to spend too much time introducing myself or anything like that, Ronan, because I think you've done a really good job. But just to say that basically my academic background is probably more on the psychological side. So my master's is psychoanalysis and my degree was philosophy. And I started my career, believe it or not, studying law and as a trainee lawyer, and made an unusual decision at the beginning of my career and got an opportunity to work in digital marketing. And that set the trajectory of my career for about over 10 years, between 10 and 11 years. And it was during this time I got actually very interested in the people side of things again. I would say I had become quite corporate in that I understood the people and the landscape. So I trained with Smurfit in executive coaching, and I specialized and trained then in emotional intelligence, and got very involved within the business with programs to do with training and developing people using emotional intelligence as a key part of that training, and using reports, etc. So I started my own business probably about 4 years ago, actually. And the business really focuses on working with, it goes into different industries, but it really focuses at going into businesses and working with leaders, senior management, and looking at their suitability, I suppose, for the roles and how they can develop themselves. You know, I work as an associate as well as some of the big consultancies like Grant Thornton, and I go in and I do specialized projects, and some of those projects will be part of a solution for retention. But in fact, all of emotional intelligence is seen as a big part of helping a business to increase their retention and decrease attrition within the business.
Mary, I think you can try your camera there now. It should come on for you.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Great.
We have you.
Yeah. All right. So am I okay to share some slides as well then, Ronan?
I think you should be okay. Yeah, just try it there. If not, and might just have to give you host rights there, but I think you should be okay for that as a co-host. So try it there now.
Okay. So there isn't anything coming up as yet to allow me to share.
Yeah, it seems to take just a couple of minutes there with Gary, or with Dara as well, and Jennifer. So maybe if you want to push ahead, they'll probably come up there in a second anyway.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Mary.
So it's going to look like I'm reading some of these slides, so apologies, but that'll be sorted out when you guys can see it. So look, the first slide I have, it's a visual slide, is it's why does EQ matter to leaders? Research shows convincingly that EQ is more important than IQ in almost every role, and many times more important in leadership roles. The reason that I'm starting off at this point is because I understand I don't have lots of time, and I could probably spend a couple of hours really talking to people around what emotional intelligence actually is, and then go on to explain how it applies to retention. But I don't have that time today, so I have to assume a certain level of knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some slides and give an overview of emotional intelligence, and then I'm going to talk about how it applies to retention and actually give some case studies. So the starting point is really how fundamental it is to leadership development and its difference between EQ and IQ. So the main difference between emotional intelligence, I suppose, and IQ is that emotional intelligence can change at any time. IQ will remain, generally, it'll be the exact same throughout a lifetime. Emotional intelligence can be changed at any point in time. So if you're going through something quite traumatic in your personal and professional life, that will have an impact on this type of intelligence. I keep on stressing the word intelligence. So in the same way that somebody with very high IQ can look at an Excel file and make a decision, a very quick decision about a sales trajectory, this type of intelligence is just a different way. It's processing a different type of data. So they're able to really, how would I put this? They're able to very easily make decisions based on a different type of, taking into account someone's feelings, their intuition, and cognitive empathy, which is really the ability to be able to put themselves into other people's situations and understand things from their point of view, and which is different than agreeing with it, but it allows them to make these different decisions very quickly for the business, which can be a struggle for some people when you think of managers who are very emotionally detached, for example, and really they find it difficult to connect with staff and possibly are unapproachable, and they really don't understand the needs of their staff. Somebody who has that high EI, they find it very easy to make, or much easier to make those decisions as well. So I'm just going to go on here. So what is emotional intelligence? So the textbook, if you like, definition of emotional intelligence is it's a set of emotional and social skills that collectively establish how well we perceive and express ourselves, develop and maintain social skills, cope with challenges, and use emotional information in an effective and meaningful way. And it's generally considered a predictor of success in life and work. And in a nutshell, it's about being yourself more, but with skill. Okay, and just some small points to remember. Emotional intelligence really wasn't talked about or wasn't able to be measured until 1983. And now since 1995, Donald Goldman, who's perhaps the best well-known and contemporary speaker and expert on emotional intelligence, there's been a lot more focus on how it's measured and how these data reports are used, especially within business, I suppose. And just quickly, so emotional intelligence and age, generally emotional intelligence will increase with every decade up until roughly 50 years of age. And then after 50, you do tend to see a dip in emotional intelligence. Okay, so the different parts of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, it's made up of 5 composites: self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal decision-making, and stress management. And when I talk about this and the different subcomposites, it'll start to become hopefully a lot clearer how this really applies to retention. So your first piece then is self-perception, which is understanding your emotions. Self-expression is expressing your emotions. Interpersonal, developing and maintaining relationships. Decision-making, which is using emotions to make better decisions. Stress management, which is coping with challenges. So what I would say is, when you use reports like emotional intelligence to affect in a positive way your retention, it can be used in various different ways. The most obvious is part of your selection process. Okay, so it's the idea that if you are taking on somebody who needs leadership skills, who is going to be a people manager or anything really, the emotional intelligence report will really give you an idea of how suitable that individual is. And the idea is that if you're taking on somebody to be particularly a people manager, where, and we've all heard that phrase, people don't leave jobs, they leave managers, and they're so important in terms of an employee's experience within the business. You really need to make sure that you're taking on somebody who has perhaps the right skill set within the emotional intelligence realm. Empathy and high interpersonal skills will be two very obvious ones. But just to kind of go through some of this stuff. So the self-perception is self-regard, which is confidence, self-actualization, continuous development, and emotional self-awareness. Again, somebody who is emotionally self-aware is somebody who tends to be in touch with what's going on around them at all times. So if you think of an individual or indeed a manager, a leader, it doesn't really matter what level they're at, but if they are very low in self-awareness, they usually are somebody who if you ask them at 9 o'clock in the morning how they are, they're like, I'm fine. 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock, they're detached from their own emotions, and they really just operate on this very kind of neutralized way is how I would describe it. Okay, but the effect that has on the people around it and retention, it means that they're really detached for seeing what's going on in the world and how other people are interacting, reacting, and how they're feeling. And because we're probably, I would describe ourselves as a reference point. We're a reference point for the whole world. So if we are unaware of how, when we're happy, frustrated, angry, how that affects us, it's like cognitive behavioral change. If we are completely detached from how that emotion makes us feel and how we think, and therefore how we feel and how we react and behave and perform, it's almost impossible for us to understand the world around us. And therefore, it's very hard for us to understand how our employees are actually feeling and thinking. And therefore, possibly missing out on lots of cues along the way, perhaps of when there's issues with employees, and understanding when to step in and when something needs to be done. You know, and sometimes that can be, you know, those managers that stand out. I'm speaking specifically about managers where we're looking at that middle point where we've already taken on staff, but we really want them to feel valued and respected within the business. Those managers who make small, little, small ideas towards their staff, where they will say things like, they know somebody has just had bad news and they'll step in and say, hey, you should really take the afternoon off, or do you want to go for a coffee? It can be anything, but that's all part of individuals who have that high emotional intelligence, and it can make a huge difference in terms of how somebody feels about how important they are within the business, you know. But the idea also of, self-actualization, which is really about continuous development. So again, if you were looking to create a growth mindset within a company where it's like everybody wants to develop themselves for development's sake, they're not really waiting to be sent on a course, etc. A lot of companies are now trying to build that type of a culture. You know, so for obvious reasons, it saves money in the long run, because they don't have to really develop staff. They know staff are already developing themselves. Sure, they'll have the technical trainings, etc. But when you have staff with that mindset, it's so much easier. Everybody just wants to be the best selves. And they tend to be individuals who perhaps take up things like an extra language outside of work or whatever it is. But the growth mindset within management and leadership within a business have a big impact on retention. It's all about how can they help the staff to reach their full potential, you know? So part of this would really be looking at training managers to, for example, be able to have development conversations, to exude basic coaching behaviors, where you're looking at really trying to train staff to have good listening, proactive listening skills, and to be able to use like basic templates, coaching templates like Grow, be able to move into much more of a less of a tell mode, but more of a listening and being there to ask good questions to facilitate the person to come to their own solution. This is all part of stimulating a culture of high performance, you know, instead of the kind of culture where, you know, you can just ask Louise the answer. And therefore everybody just asks Louise the answer. And in some ways, this is my word, it can create quite a lazy culture. But again, self-actualization, having this mindset and stimulating it, if you like, throughout the whole business and cascading it down. So, you know, you have those type of accelerate programs where everybody is really able to coach and mentor on some level. It's not saying somebody is a coach, but it is saying they're able to kind of have those types of behaviors, and everybody feels like they're having development conversations all the way down. That makes a huge difference to creating a high performance culture. And therefore, where high performers, research shows they tend to like to be developed. It's really important to them. So again, giving the organization a much better chance of holding on to their top performers, because it's front and center always within the culture and the mindset of the organization. So if we go on to something like emotional expression, where it's saying how you feel, assertiveness, standing up for yourself effectively, and independence, standing on your own 2 feet. I would say, again, the idea of empathy, which I'll come on to now in a moment, and emotional expression, where you have an organization where, I keep on picking out leadership and managers, but they have the biggest effect and impact on how people feel within the business, how they feel valued, respected, and they're basically creating the culture. Again, when you have an organization where a skill set like emotional expression is really understood and used, people tend to understand the difference between having a conversation where they may think emotional expression is all about, you know, I feel happy today, I feel sad, or emotional expression, and really feeling sorry, I should say, like it's not part of a professional conversation. To be able to use emotional expression is to be able to have a very direct conversation, really good communication style, where you can share worries, concerns, challenges within the business, but in a way that it still feels like you're having a professional conversation. But at the same time, the person feels, I suppose, like you are sharing, they feel like they're having a very authentic conversation, and an individual feels comfortable sharing maybe in their vulnerabilities and exposures. So it feels like a very real conversation. And a lot of the work that I would do within businesses is trying to improve that in their communication style. And again, this is always trying to make staff feel like they're having deeper conversations, feeding always into that feeling highly valued and respected. You know, because as we know, when we look at benefits and we look at very competitive monetary packages, that certainly is important, and it's part of people's decisions why they join and stay. But again, most research would show the feeling valued, respected, being part of a culture where they know they're being developed is just as, or if in a lot of cases, is much more important. So it's not just enough to, I would say, get the right people on, and you can use emotional intelligence as part of the selection criteria, and I will have some case studies now to show you about that. But fundamentally, really being so aware and creating a culture where your staff, especially staff who have direct reports, are trained, they have self-awareness, they're coached themselves perhaps, but at least be able to exude those coaching behaviors within the organization and build the right type of culture where people essentially want to stay and feel like they're valued within the organization. So
Mary, sorry, I'm just going to come in there. Actually, I'm just very conscious of time as well. And we actually have a question that's come in, a question from an attendee. I think it might just link into maybe some case studies there for you. But they've asked if EQ can be measured, would it ever be utilized as an additional screening for recruitment or promotions? And again, kind of asking the question, I suppose, would today's employers use EQ testing as a screening tool? So from your experience, is it used for promotion and for recruitment?
Yes. Yeah, it's one of because it's a specialist area of mine, Ronan, that would be one of the key pieces of work that I would do with businesses. So a lot of the times, whether it's just at entry level, because it depends on the organization, of course, and the business, they will make sure that everybody who's coming into the business will at least have a certain level of emotional intelligence. And of course, paying special attention if they're going in to manage people to, as I called out, certain key areas like emotional expression, empathy, but overall their stress management, and they'll have a few key areas that they pay particular attention to. So absolutely. When it comes to promotion and succession planning, as I said, emotional intelligence can change. So it's really making sure that it's part of a process. It's not the only thing, but it's making sure that the individual is in the right place, like psychologically, to take on the role. So it would play a fundamental part of the internal process of promotions all the time. Yeah.
Thanks a million, Mary. Huge insights there into the emotional intelligence and the power it can. I'd like to invite Gary and Jennifer back in for a second. I suppose just maybe briefly, folks, if there was situations where you might use psychometrics, do you use them? Do you use emotional intelligence around that, when it comes to screening and to finding talent?
Yeah, if I can take that, Ronan, kind of tying in actually what Mary was saying, for all senior appointments, either coming into the business or internal promotion, yes, we would use testing for both. Yeah.
We've used it. I can't turn my camera on. We've used it before, similar to Gary, for senior positions in the business, and your metrics in it, but it has to be handled very well. It's the way the way the data is conducted and things like that. It has to be handled through a proper channels, as opposed to one of the online things that you can just avail of for recruitment.
Excellent. And I suppose to a panelist there today, for anyone that's listening, if they had to make an instant step tomorrow morning when they get to their desk about looking at increasing employee engagement and ensuring staff retention, what would that first thing, what's the first thing they should look into based on your experience?
Well, I guess, Ron, my area of expertise is emotional intelligence. So when I'm talking to companies, it's always with that in mind, so really and truly, it's all about their people and making sure that there is, at the very least, a self-awareness around how important this is and how much of a part it plays in affecting people's day-to-day lives within the company. So really, leadership and management showing a strong level of quadrant in this area. Yeah, and just also to add in that the reports that I use are psychology reports. So they were voted, I think, the first or second best psychology reports in England. So again, I wouldn't recommend that people just do an EI or emotional intelligence randomly online. They are, yeah, it should be handled with care.
That's up there with Googling your symptoms, instead of going to actual medically qualified doctor.
Ronan, would you mind, because I know you're conscious of time, can I have 2 minutes? I just want to call out this because it's quite highly relevant. Just one moment to call out a case study.
Go for it, quickly if you can. Sorry,
sure,
people a
no
bit longer
problem. So just to say, United States Airlines, so they were having a high turnover of recruiters within the first year. So what they decided to do was they used the EQI assessments to study the difference between successful and unsuccessful recruiters, and basically they came up with a very obvious winner in the successful recruiters who showed very high emotional intelligence in assertiveness, self-actualization, stress tolerance, flexibility, problem solving, and happiness. And it led to a 92% increase in retention and 2.7 million savings in training over the first year alone. And then just to add in the second case, which was again United States Airlines, where they approximately 82% of those who entered their training programs weren't completing it. So again, they applied the emotional intelligence assessments to look at those who were successful and unsuccessful, and they came up with I think they came up with 5 factors that were linked to success, and it was around the flexibility, optimism, self-regard, happiness, and reality testing. And this led to 19 million per year in training costs being cut, and a high level of reduction in attrition rate. Okay, so just wanted to kind of call that out. By using a measurement tool, it comes into play in so many ways, Ronan, and it is fundamental in terms of really keeping your retention rates low.
Yeah. No, fantastic, and thank you for bringing that to us, because exactly that's what I'm seeing. Some of the metrics and the KPIs around it is brilliant too, and much needed. But I think just on behalf of myself and everybody here at LOETB, I just want to say a huge thank you to today's speakers, to Jennifer Emerson and Dara Cruz from the Midlands Park Hotel, Gary Kelly from Grant Engineering in Burr, and of course from Mary Carroll, who we've just heard from as well. Hopefully it's been insightful for you. It's given you some tips, it's given you some ideas. As businesses face challenges in going forward in terms of, what the future looks like out there. But, a lot of good indicators in the country at the minute, still a lot of employment out there, a lot of opportunities. So retaining your staff and keeping them is of paramount importance now more than ever, as we enter the next phase of the challenges that are put up there for all our businesses. Thank you for joining in today, for taking time out this afternoon. A video of today's webinar will be available in the next day or so as well. It'll be available on all LOETB kind of social media channels. That's it for now. Keep your eyes peeled on those social media channels too, because there'll be some exciting webinars and events coming up. Some, I'm sure, coming to you from the new Enterprise Hub here in Tullamore. So have a good afternoon and talk to you all soon. Thank you. Goodbye.